Today I'm just working on getting some more of my warm weather crops started. As you can see behind me, I've still got my forest of peppers in here, but I want to get all the rest of my stuff started. So I'm just going to bring you along, show you how I do it, and I hope you enjoy it. So I just use a big bowl, put in whatever kind of potting soil you have. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to stay in this very long. I just, if I'm going to keep it in soil, it doesn't need to be seed starting stuff. It can be whatever it's going to end up in later, or compost, or really whatever. It's just, I want to get it started indoors because the temperature here is not great for getting stuff started outside. So I want to start it inside. Make it more stable and easy for these to start, and it'll be more successful. Hi friends, I'm Laura. This is Double Vision Homestead. Welcome. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and join me on my journey of having a year-round garden. So here are the seeds I'm planting today. So this one is from Adaptive Seeds. It's a Pacific Northwest grown company. So this is called the Farthest North Melon Mix. So these kind of all look different. They don't, every plant is slightly different than the other ones, but they all pretty much produce these little softball sized, green fleshed, deliciously sweet melons, and they're great for growing in the Pacific Northwest. This says it takes 65 days. They just do great. I get a whole bunch of these little tiny melons, and they're perfect. I don't eat a huge amount of melon at one time. I don't need a huge melon. So this works if I want a huge helping of myself or a small helping between me and my husband and my daughter. And we are always happy when we see them growing. This is one of our favorite things. It's not my first seed pack I've had of this kind. My sister actually grew it for the first time, or grew it before me and told me about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta try that. And I've been hooked, replaced the seeds more than once, and they're amazing. We'll probably always have these in my garden. And then this one, I tried it out last year. It was pretty successful. It's the Minnesota Midget Melon. I think that they're changing the name, or they've been working on changing the name. Anyway, same idea, but it's more of a cantaloupe instead of a green flesh. And then I'm also starting the Lemon Drop Watermelon. This one is delicious, and also small. I like to grow these small ones because they usually have a much shorter growing season, and since we don't get a lot of hot weather in the western Washington, kind of that coastal type of weather, it doesn't get crazy hot, so things take a little bit longer to grow. These are pretty successful. The only issue, even though these ones do taste delicious, is that basically as soon as they are ripe, they split. So you got to be checking them daily. Otherwise, it's just going to get wasted. In fact, there was one time I went out to check it. I tapped on it to see what it sounded like, because it's yellow. You can't tell that it's like changing. And it split in my hands, which was fine because I just took it in and cut it up, but it tastes delicious. This is very sweet watermelon. And then I'm also starting some squash plants, so summer and winter squash. This one, I grew it for the first time last year. It's a Pantheon, I believe. It's also a hybrid. This one is like the Italian type, kind of ribbed, I guess, but it's more striped looking. It's delicious, and these hybrids I understand why people grow them. I grew this last year and it was insanely productive. It started producing probably at least a couple weeks quicker than the other types that I planted that were not hybrids, so I think that has to do with it. So I will keep planting these probably, I'll have seeds for several years because I only plant 2 zucchini plants. Who needs that much? I mean, it feeds an army, but this is delicious. And then another hybrid I've got also from Johnny's Seeds. This is a spaghetti squash. This one's called Angel Hair F1. It also did insane last year. I got so many of them. I didn't know what to do with them all, so I'll be doing it again. And then this is probably my favorite kind of squash that there is, and it's delicata. I have not been overly successful with huge amounts of them over the years. Maybe this is my year. You never know. Every year seems to be different, which is why I grow so many different varieties, because one year I might be really successful with one, and then the next year I'm really successful with another. But if I mix in all these different types, I'm bound to be successful. I mean, you can't fail then. I'm going to start cucumbers. I like to grow lots of different kinds of cucumbers, but for the first round, I'm going to go with my favorites and ones that are supposed to be better inside of a greenhouse because they'll be going inside of my little tunnel, and we'll see if it makes a difference. So this is my all-time favorite kind of cucumber. It's the Richmond green apple cucumber. Most people have had a lemon cucumber. These are pretty similar. They're green instead of yellow, but I like the flavor just slightly better, but it's basically the same thing. They're round, delicious cucumbers. And then we've got an F1 cucumber, and then this Bait Alpha cucumber. So these are supposed to be better inside of greenhouses, so I'm hoping they'll be better inside of my tunnel. We'll see. As I said, I'll be growing more kinds that'll start in a couple weeks, and they'll be going straight out into the garden. A lot of people say that these type of plants don't transplant well, but I haven't had a problem with it. I find it to be more successful. I need less seeds, basically, to start them indoors and then transfer them outdoors. And so that's the type of things I'm talking about are cucumbers and melons. So I'm not growing them to be huge size. I just want them to germinate and start indoors. And once they do, I'll get them outdoors. It's just with the, it may be wet, it may be dry, it may be cold, it may be warm kind of weather. It's just easier to start them for me indoors. If you're successful outdoors, go for it. One less step is always a nice thing with gardening. But let's just go through how I do this. As you can see, I like to wear gloves. I like to use them when I'm just digging around in the dirt. That way I can get it all out from underneath my nails easier. So I just have my potting soil, doesn't matter what kind, inside of a bowl. I like to pre-wet it before I put it in the pots. That way it gets evenly moist. Otherwise, you know, it might be harder to get wet once it's in the pot. And then I like to start these kind of plants inside of slightly larger pots. These are 4 inches tall, 2.5 inches at the base. They're not huge, but they're definitely larger than the seed starting pots that you usually get. So this way it disturbs the roots less, since these supposedly don't like their roots being disturbed, and it'll be more successful, is my thoughts anyway. So I just have the moist soil, pack it in. I use a roll of painter's tape and a Sharpie on the outside of the pot, label it, put them inside of a tray. As you can see over here, I got a tray, and then put a clear dome over it, let them germinate, take the dome off, and there we go, successful. Get them outside. Cucumbers are one of my all-time favorite vegetables. We buy them the rest of the year because honestly, as much as I would love to eat what's in season, I just love cucumbers and can never have enough of them. So I buy them every week at the grocery store until cucumber season is going strong in my garden, and then I'm extremely happy, can't eat enough of them, have to give them away, which I love. And I'm hoping that this year, starting them in the tunnel will make it so I can get them sooner in the year. Because last year was a sad cucumber year for me. It just was cold and wet for so long that my cucumbers just really were not successful until much later in the season, and then they'd been alive for so long that they just died out. I didn't get the normal abundance that I usually do, so I'm going to try to be better about starting a second round of crops this year, and just keep it going, maybe even a third. I think I might be able to get 3 rounds of cucumbers in, because they're so quick growing, and with the tunnel I can do inside the tunnel early in the season, out in the garden later in the summer, and then back in the tunnel in the early fall, and hopefully have quite a long cucumber season. And I pretty much just eat them fresh. I mean, we make salads with them, and you know, maybe some sauces or that kind of thing, salads, fresh. But I don't do a lot of pickles. I like pickles, but no one else in my family seems to appreciate them the amount that I do. So, you know, we'll just not go with pickles, which is fine. I might, we'll see what happens, you know. I might make some just for myself, and then they'll all be jealous that they don't have delicious, fresh pickles like I do. So that's what I'm gonna plant now. I'll just write my labels with my blue tape, put them on my containers, and then I like to do 2 seeds per pot, because I don't wanna come back later and have to replant them if they didn't grow. So I like to throw in more than 1 seed, and if I get extra, I get extra. If I don't, that's fine too. And the great thing about putting this tape on there is that when I go and plant them in my beds, I also just peel this tape off and put it on the sides of the bed where I put the plant, so I can remember what variety it is. And it doesn't seem to fade, it lasts through the season, so that's always nice. Okay, so what's first? We've got the green apple cucumber. So I don't throw them in a certain way, I just kind of drop them in. I'll space them out just a little bit in case there's 2. That way they're not growing right on top of each other, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. Okay, we got the Pantheon. So as you can see, I don't have a set company that I like to get my plants from. It doesn't really matter to me. Whatever has something that sounds good, that's what I buy from. And it seems like Johnny's is the company that has the most hybrids that I've seen. So that's why my hybrids are from there. And I actually got these kinds because they were on sale. So, you know, gotta love sale seeds. I'm happy to be indoors right now and not outdoors because it is just absolutely pouring right now. I love that I have a window in my little shed here, but it is nasty out. Just absolutely nasty. It has been raining for like 2 weeks straight. You'd think I'd be used to it living in Washington pretty much my whole life, but I do not get used to it. Every year I'm waiting for summer. Like, please, just can it please be summertime? But looks like we've got a little bit of time left until we get there. So I don't really pick a certain direction for it to grow upwards. Plants, seeds can figure it out on their own. I have not had less success because I don't have a certain direction pointing up. I just make sure that I get them covered with soil, make sure that the soil is nice and damp, and give them some warmth, and they will figure it out on their own. And then, even though the soil is a little moist, it's not really that wet. I just kind of pre-moistened it, so I make sure to give it a good watering before I cover it, and then I'll cover it with a clear mat or a clear lid and put it on the heat mat. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you're planting and if you like to direct seed your cucumbers and melons, or if you start them indoors like I do. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon in the garden.